this is a story of, I mean, in my mind, the IRS, who was trying to get this out, they were the ones that have been actually targeted in this whole investigation.
Yeah, I mean, that argument could be made, but I think, I mean, your point about the real story here getting lost is a valid one. And the real story here is you've got all these social welfare nonprofits that are spending anonymous money, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of anonymous money on elections. And they're allowed to do it.
All right, there you go. That's the MSNBC spin on what is a true scandal, with one of the center figures in the scandal taking the fifth twice, and a Justice Department not willing to do anything about it. Joining us now is the primary attorney for many of the groups targeted by the IRS, and we welcome in Cleta Mitchell. Hey, Cleta.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. Okay, you know, let's leave MSNBC aside. We do that for comic relief. But let's talk about something that's really not funny. And of course, in the past 2 days, you've had two House committees voting to recommend criminal charges be brought against Lois Lerner, and that should be held in contempt of Congress.
That's right, and I think that both of those actions are entirely appropriate. I represent True the Vote, which is one of the organizations, one of the many hundreds of organizations targeted by the IRS because of their political beliefs and because of their philosophical beliefs in the case of True the Vote, because True the Vote doesn't engage in political campaign activity.
Well, I had the pleasure of meeting Catherine Engelbrecht down at the Breakers for David Horowitz's weekend down there in November, and we talked to her at the time, and I did want to get to that, so let's get to that right now. The bombshell that came out of yesterday, and of course if we had a media that would report it, it would truly be recognized as a bombshell, and that is that there's emails that suggest, and that's the word I'm using, that suggest that Elijah Cummings, the ranking member on the Oversight Committee, was getting information from Lois Lerner with respect to True the Vote.
That's right. Well, we filed, when Catherine and I testified before the subcommittee of the Oversight Committee on February the 6th, and we filed an ethics complaint that day asking the Office of Congressional Ethics to investigate what role Elijah Cummings and or his staff had in sicking the full federal government on Catherine Engelbrecht and True the Vote. And he was very outraged and said that was incorrect, it was not true. And we said, well, we just want an investigation to find out what relationship there is between this representative and his staff and the IRS and all these other federal agencies who went after True the Vote and Catherine Engelbrecht. Well, after saying that it wasn't true, and after Representative Cummings, who's the ranking member of Oversight, has been trying to shut down that investigation since last June, by the way. He pronounced the investigation to be over the end of June of 2013 and has been trying to do everything he can to thwart the investigation. Well, guess what? It turns out that when finally, in the last 3 to 4 weeks, the committee obtains more of Lois Lerner's emails, we find out that, in fact, she was communicating within the IRS about a special request from Cummings' staff saying they had opened their own investigation into True the Vote, and they began to send the Cummings staff, and Cummings started sending letters to True the Vote in the fall of 2012 that were virtually identical to letters from the letters and questions the IRS had sent to Catherine Engelbrecht for True the Vote a few months earlier. So there's much more here to investigate to get to the truth here. But basically, what he said to me that day when I was testifying, what he said to the American people, and what he said, you know, it was under oath, essentially, because, you know, when you're supposed to tell the truth when out of the congressional hearing, he said there was no involvement by him or his staff, and that turns out to be a lie.
Yeah, no. So I mean, so the ethics committee here, is that who you're looking for to get to the bottom of this? Or I mean, if we had a true attorney general, I mean, is there? You know, I just spoke to Jack Kingston earlier in the show, congressman from Georgia, and he's calling for a special prosecutor for the Lois Lerner IRS affair and Benghazi, because we have a Justice Department led by an attorney general where, you know, nothing is going to be accomplished. Is that your fear here with this situation?
Well, you know, the Office of Congressional Ethics is a creature created by House resolution for the purpose of allowing people from the general public as well as other members to file complaints requesting an ethics investigation. And they are supposed to investigate all allegations of violations of House rules by any member or staffer. So we supplemented our complaint yesterday by adding this new information, and I hope that they'll proceed. Look, you just never know, but I hope that they will conduct an investigation, because nobody else can get the actual emails internally from Cummings staff other than the House Ethics Committee.
Well, it is a Republican, I mean, the Republicans do control the House, so hopefully in that regard it can.
Well, not the Ethics Committee.
No, not the Ethics Committee.
Ethics committees are evenly balanced.
They are, yeah, they are. But you know, hopefully it'll get done, because it is outrageous. And you know, the emails that were revealed and what you're talking about show a dishonesty, if it's true, and a conflict of interest, and you know, and working against the investigation of the committee that he serves as ranking member on. So these are serious. That looks very serious based on what we've found out so far through you and through those emails. All right, talk about where are we with regard to some of your other clients and groups that have been targeted by the IRS. And first of all, what is this claim? I mean, it's commonplace on MSNBC, yet from most people that I've talked to and that I've heard from, it's been dispelled. That, you know, oh, liberal groups were routinely, you know, scrutinized or denied, just like conservative groups. That's not true, is it?
No, it's not true. And in fact, the Oversight Committee released a report within the last week showing that indeed it's not true. There were 7 progressive groups who were pulled into being scrutinized, and after they were looked at, then it's like going fishing and you catch a fish and then you throw it back in.
Right.
So yes, they were looked at, but then they proceeded to get their tax-exempt status, whereas the conservative groups were held up for years.
And how many conservative groups are we talking about, approximately?
About 400.
So 400 to 7, and the 7 had little problem. All right. So some of the groups that you represent, where are they? Have most of those cases been adjudicated?
No, there are still ones that have not gotten their C4 or C3 status. In fact, Tea Party Patriots is the largest group. Jenny Beth Martin is one of the co-founders of the Tea Party Patriots. They applied in December of 2010. She testified before Congress, before the Oversight Committee on the 27th of February, and the IRS called her the day before she was testifying about not having gotten her tax-exempt status, and said, "Oh, we've decided to grant it." So if you get asked to testify before Congress, they'll actually do something. But there still are many groups that have not received their tax-exempt status.
And finally, your opinion on Lois Lerner and her ability to plead the Fifth after she gave an opening statement. I mean, I've talked to several lawyers about that, and you know, there are varying opinions, but they all say it is an interesting, at the very least, it's an interesting kind of conflict. How do you weigh in on that?
Well, I think that she has waived her privilege both by making the opening statement, as well as we found out that she gave interviews to the Department of Justice, which is, you'd think if she really thought that she had a criminal liability, she wouldn't be talking to the prosecutor. So what does that tell you about the DOJ investigation?
That makes sense. Hey, Cleta, thank you so much. Good luck the rest of the way. We'll talk to you again, and keep up the good fight.
Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. That's Cleta Mitchell, ladies and gentlemen. She's the primary attorney for many groups who have been targeted by the IRS, over 400 to 7. So, yeah, you do have to concede factually to the left that, yeah, some progressive groups were targeted also. 7 compared to 400 and something, and they all got their status approved, okay? So let's be real here, as they say. It's no contest whatsoever. And it's going to be interesting to see going forward how this Lois Lerner thing plays out, if she has a legal right to take the Fifth after, you know, making an opening statement and then also apparently talking to justice. All right, folks, Give Me 5 is next right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.